Hello and thanks for watching my video. Today we're doing an episode of Mikei Talk, and today I'm joined by my guild raid leader Sean.
Hello, I'm Sean.
And also one of the other guild raiders as well. This is Ruan, so welcome Ruan.
Hey, how's it going, Chris?
And we're actually doing a video where we're going to be discussing the expansion and what our hopes and what our thoughts about it, what maybe not like the look of, because this is a month before the expansion comes out. So I'm going to throw it out there. I'm going to say, Sean, what's the one thing that you are looking forward to with the expansion?
Well, because I'm a Mesmer main, obviously, naturally, I am looking forward to Mirage, but I'm also not really looking forward to Mirage.
And why is that?
I feel like it's just I feel like the idea is there, but the execution's kind of crap.
Okay, did you play some of it during the demo?
Yeah, I played some of it during the demo, and I feel like it's gonna be one of those. It's gonna be one of those elite specs that comes out around for PvP, and I don't play PvP, so it's a little bit of a letdown. But I guess that's kind of what the Scrapper was too.
Yeah.
So. Oh well.
Well, you don't see too much Scrapper in PvE or World versus World, do you? And it's been very prolific in PvP. So then you think the Mirage is more of a PvP orientated build for the Mesmer?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Because almost all the conditions it puts out are Torment and Confusion, and those are PvP conditions.
Well, you could say, we have seen Torment being used on a lot of PvE bosses, particularly in raids, if they are moving. Maybe not the world meta bosses, but...
Yeah, but the thing with Torment is that it's good against moving bosses, and which is fine. Almost all the bosses move to some degree, but we're gonna see what we see now, where the only Mesmer builds that are useful are the ones that put out Confusion and Torment, and only at Matthias and Karen.
Okay.
And if you try to play it at a different boss, it'll work, but you might as well just bring something else. And that's not what I want. Like Mesmer, I feel like Mesmer's really good at being. They have burst, right? They have damage. They have burst damage. They have Condi, but for PvP, and they have support and tank.
Yeah.
But they don't. They can't fill the DPS role. They really can't.
But then again, if you look at now the elite spec, the Chronomancer is supposed to compete against the Mirage. So in different aspects and different gameplay types, you have got now a choice as a Mesmer. You can go Chronomancer or Mirage. And I think, the excitement for a new game and the new expansion with the new elite spec, people are going to play Mirage, but I think you're absolutely right. It is going to be more of a PvP type gameplay, and you'll still see a lot of Chronomancer play in PvE.
Another problem that the Mirage has, and that I can compare it to every elite spec, is that it doesn't really provide anything for the team.
Yeah.
It's like it's just extremely selfish to run Mirage. It's extremely selfish. It's more selfish than running a Thief, right? And Thief can at least give its entire team Basilisk Venom, and that's a whole ton of CC that you could put on a boss. Mirage doesn't even do that.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we've got some interesting thoughts there. Let's talk to Ruan and say, Ruan, what are you really looking forward to? What's the big thing, one of the reasons why you're buying Path of Fire?
Well, one of the reasons is whenever I look at a new MMO expansion coming out, I always look at the story side of it and then the mechanics of it. So I'd have to say definitely the story is a big part of what I'm looking forward to, and then also all the elite specs that are coming out. Particularly, like, I'm a warrior main right now, but after the expansion comes out, I'll probably end up switching just because the Spellbreaker isn't going to be as much geared for PvE content, which I mostly do. So I might change that up a little bit and get a little bit of a new fresh start again with a new elite spec or a new profession.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear both of you say that one of the main, obviously, the hopes, but also slight disappointments are the elite specializations. And they were such a big thing with Heart of Thorns. If you watch one of my videos talking about what were some of the big successes, that the elite specs were pretty much the one thing that came out of Heart of Thorns, which was a fantastic thing. Now we're seeing the Path of Fire, the elite specs, people aren't as excited for them or seeing them more attuned to certain game types. So then let me ask both of you. I'll start by asking Sean first. Is there a place for having elite specs for particular game types? Does every elite specialization have to be excellent in every game type?
Well, no. I think that if you make, and this is one of the things problem with Guild Wars 2 as a whole. If you make a class or a single elite spec a jack of all trades, then it loses its flavor, right? So if you give, I'm going to go against what I said here 5 minutes ago. If you sit there and give Mesmer the ability to play every single role effectively, then why not just have 10 Mesmers, right?
Yeah.
If you give Ellie the ability to do anything other than do damage, what if you gave Ellie the ability to put out quickness and alacrity? Well, then why would you ever take a Mesmer? So it's really good to have diversity and to have some elite specs that are more geared towards PvP and some elite specs that are more geared towards PvE.
And what about you, Ruan? What's your thoughts on this?
Well, it kind of goes back to the core philosophy that Guild Wars 2 had when it was just being released, where they said that they wanted all the professions to be able to fill the support, the tankiness, and then the DPS roles. And I think that one single elite spec isn't going to be able to fill every single role like we can see right now that the Mesmer or the Chrono right now, for example, doesn't really fill the DPS role as much. Well, there's a new patch that it makes it a little bit better. But like for Condi, for example, it doesn't do as much right now. And I think that it's going to take multiple elite specs for sure to be able to fill all the different roles that you really want in the raid groups or whatever party situation you're doing.
Yeah, and I agree. And go on, Sean, you got something to say?
Sorry, I was playing World of Warcraft actually a couple months ago, and I've noticed something about the way they have their classes set up. Is that almost every class has subclasses, kind of like how we have specializations. It's almost exactly like how we have specializations. Each class has the ability to be all kinds of different things, and it's a lot more focused for each class, because they've got I think they've got tons of classes. We have 8 or 9. We have 9 classes. They have tons of classes, and some races can only be some class. It's crazy. They've just so many. But not every class can fill every role, but every class can fill at least 2 or 3 roles, and they're these roles that are predefined for this class. So if you play a mage, you've got 2 different specializations for DPS, and then 1 if you want to be a healer. And then, but those trait lines and stuff are designed around playing that class, specifically around that class.
Well, that's interesting. And again, we could talk a lot about the elite specs, and then saying, for example, you had the introduction of Druid being the main healer, which was something that they hadn't really developed with the core game, and they brought it in because obviously they knew that raids were going to be coming in. But actually, it's something that I want to ask both of you, and I'll start with Ruan. We had the launch of Heart of Thorns, and if you look at the Heart of Thorns expansion, we had a new PvP game type. We had a new world versus world map. We actually had 4 in-game maps, 2 guild halls, obviously all the elite specialization. We had a new profession come in. With Path of Fire, are we getting as much for our money as we got with Heart of Thorns? And I'd like, Ruan, what do you think about this?
I think Heart of Thorns for sure was an expansion that really polished all the problems that I think a lot of people think that Guild Wars 2 had. I don't think it had as much content that people thought it would have, but it really fixed a lot of the problems. And I think Path of Fire is definitely going to deliver a lot more content, or at least equal to Heart of the last expansion that came out.
Heart of Thorns,
Heart of Thorns, sorry. I was about to say Heart of Stone. I've been playing too much.
And Sean, what about you? I mean,
Go on.
Well,
we could just look at it from just from a money point of view, right? Heart of Thorns is $50, right? Path of Fire is $30.
Yeah.
I feel like we're getting a lot more content out of Path of Fire. Maybe not at first because we have raids coming out, but they're not. They're probably. I haven't heard anything about the raids, so my assumption is that they're going to be coming out a few months after the expansion comes out. However,
was the Heart of Thorns supposed to be a little bit more like money wise, and then they reduced the price because of the backlash they got?
Yep. Yeah. Heart of Thorns was like half content, half systems and mechanics and stuff, like game wide mechanics and stuff. I feel like Path of Fire is just going to be almost all content, which is good. And we're getting. I mean, it's fine that Heart of Thorns did that, but it was a lot more expensive than it should have been.
Yeah.
Right. For the amount of content we got at launch. Now, right now is Heart of Thorns worth $50? Probably, yeah. Probably not. I'd probably go for 40, but it's definitely worth more than it was at launch. But I think like Path of Fire, like it's only $30, right? We're getting all this content. Of course, it's going to be. We're getting more bang for our buck in Path of Fire. Even if I'm not going to get everything I can out of the Elite spec I want to play, I still can sit there and say I'm still getting an Elite specialization whether I play it or not.
Yeah, and I guess one of the things is they kind of changed their philosophy. That the whole Heart of Thorns was built about everything being launched on that day. You know, we had the World versus World map, which was a bit of a disaster. The PvP new game type Stronghold, which again has pretty much flopped because of just it hasn't worked out how they imagined, and they've gone back to Conquest and bringing in new maps, which has been fantastic, but not as part of an expansion. They've created one additional guild hall instead of two that they launched with Heart of Thorns. Okay, yeah, they've brought in the Elite specs, but they haven't. There's not, in my opinion, a game changer. There isn't a new profession, which is what pretty much every other expansion that they've had, if you go back to Guild Wars 1, they brought in new professions, and they brought in heroes, and they brought in lots of different things. Path of Fire isn't really bringing much apart from new content in terms of the story. We have massive maps, but then we have the one thing that we've not really talked about, and that's mounts.
Woo!
So I was actually someone who never wanted to see mounts in Guild Wars 2. However, I've changed my mind. And I didn't want it to be like World of Warcraft. And I've seen now the size of the maps and the gameplay that I experienced in the Desert Borderlands World versus World map. Those maps are huge. The PvE map, I think, is roughly about the same size, if not bigger, in the Path of Fire, based upon some of the map leaks. But if that's the case, mounts are definitely going to be needed, and I'm happy that the abilities of the mounts as well, the fact that they are quite unique. Are you excited, Sean, to have mounts in the game?
Okay, so from a Fashion Wars point of view, hell yeah, mounts are going to be awesome just for looking cool and
gem store skins.
Gem store skins, exactly. They're gonna milk that just like they milk the crap out of the gliders and all the back items. I was telling one of the people in map chat, or I think it was map chat or something. Someone was like, someone said we want capes. I was like, we didn't get capes, we got wings.
Yeah.
So we got all these wings, we got all these gliders and all this stuff. They're gonna milk the crap out of the mounts for sure, 100%. And yeah, the mounts are going to be cool. I'm going to use them, obviously.
Yeah.
But the original point that I wanted to make was I played a lot of Black Desert Online. And not only are the mounts in that game are very limited, they're just horses, right?
Yeah.
And nothing crazy. There's no fast travel in Black Desert Online. None. There's zero fast travel. And I really liked that. I liked the idea of me being somewhere was a decision, and that had impact on what I was and was not able to do. And I think in Guild Wars 2, I guess they didn't want to do that, but they're kind of doing that again with these gigantic maps, which is kind of cool. When I played the first beta, I didn't see a whole lot of waypoints. It's also really good. don't like waypoints. So the lack of waypoints makes... I'm not going to say it makes mounts necessary, but it makes mounts more viable, for sure.
Interesting. And what about you, Ron? What's your thoughts on mounts? Are you excited? Did you have the chance to play it during the demo?
Yeah, I've played it a lot, and I'm definitely really excited for mounts. And I think mounts really serve two purposes, really. One of them's cosmetic that Sean talked about already, and I think it's great that they're adding mounts and probably their cosmetics to the game, because it's a really good source of revenue, as we've seen from all the gliders that people buy. And then also with mounts, the second part that they fill is movement mechanics. And I think it really puts another layer of different things that you can do in terms of movements. And they're really going to have to balance how they want that to perform, depending on whether they increase or decrease the amount of waypoints that are available in the map, or increase their movement speed, because I know a lot of people have been complaining about the movement speed of the mounts, but that's not really the biggest purpose that they make. It's mostly just to add another layer of different things that you can do while you're moving around. Like, for example, you can jump across different between two land masses, like with the Raptor, that you can between two canyons. And I think that's great, really, because you couldn't really do that before, even with gliding, if they were on the same plane. And I think just adding that is a great layer of mechanics that they added to Guild Wars 2.
Imagine all of the different mechanics we're going to see in raids because of the mounts they're putting in. And the different mounts we're going to have different abilities, right? So just
they added
all those crazy mechanics we're going to see. I'm so excited for those, for the raids.
Yeah, they did a great job with gliding in raids. I think they'll definitely allow mounts in some way to raids, at least. Maybe even fractals. We'll see.
Well, I mean, we are seeing that there's going to be mount races in the new expansion. You know what I'd love to see? I'd love if it was a guild type thing to actually be able to, you obviously have with the scribing, you can create resources and put them all things around your arena. I think it'd be cool if you could put like gates around your arena that you have to pass through and create a race course in your guild hall and actually have people compete on their mounts. There's just something, I feel that they need to introduce more things that you can do as a guild. Whether or not the new guild hall will actually do that, I don't know. So we've talked about some of the different exciting things, elite specializations. We've talked about, obviously, mounts that are coming into the game, and they're some of the big things. What about in terms of the story content and in terms of the timeline? There was a big gap between Heart of Thorns releasing and Living World Season 3. They've already said Living World Season 4 will be coming along only a few months after Path of Fire launches. Do you feel that they have learned from their experience with Heart of Thorns, and that with Path of Fire, the story is going to go a lot more smoothly? We'll start with Ruan this time.
This actually goes back to the earlier conversation we were having, where we were talking about the value of the two expansions that are coming out, and we didn't really talk about the fact that with the expansion, you also have the living story, which is actually part of the expansion, because you cannot access that unless you've actually bought the expansion.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to a value point of view, I think definitely that at least Heart of Thorns was worth it, because the newest living story is actually part of that expansion, and it's been really great so far. And whether or not the Path of Fire expansion will live up to it will depend on how well the next living story is going to come out. And I think it's really great that they're decreasing the amount of time between the expansion and also the living stories, because it's almost seamless, and you're giving enough time for people to actually play the expansion, but not giving too much time where they have nothing to do at the end of it.
And that's some really good, interesting thoughts. What about you, Sean? What do you, what's your opinion on this?
Okay, so I think, they've learned from their mistakes, but my opinion on this story as a whole, I know it wasn't the question.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. You can go on. You can sidetrack.
I'm not really happy with the story. I think Balthazar's stupid. I was so excited to learn about Lazarus, right? But they just like, Balthazar's Lazarus, or Lazarus was Balthazar, and then they had Livia, who came in, who was just annoying. All of the Shining Blade are just annoying. I hated it. I hated it all. It all sucked.
I mean,
well, Sean, you didn't like getting rocks dropped on you?
Dude, I was so stupid, dude. I loved the first couple episodes, but as soon as Lazarus became Balthazar, I was just like, I'm out. This sucks. So I just don't like it when they throw things into the story like that are just like there was nothing pointing towards it.
yeah,
There really wasn't. Oh, we saw Lazarus use fire magic. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. I need more hints. I don't need my hand held, but I need there to be some room for speculation that isn't complete tinfoil hat bullshit.
Yeah, it's interesting the way they've gone with that, and whether or not they'll develop that with Path of Fire, that may pay. The Living World story may pay off in the expansion. Whether or not as well we'll get some finality to it, or whether it'll lead again onto Season 4. Because if you remember at the end of Guild Wars 2, the core story, we had this big celebration. So after we had that finality, we didn't get that too much with Living World Season 3 and 4, Living World 2 and 3, sorry, which kind of ended on cliffhangers. But what I'd like to ask is, due to the hype that we had with Heart of Thorns and how it was a bit of a letdown, do you think that, for example, the way they promoted Path of Fire, the hype hasn't been as well promoted? They've not really pushed the game as much. Particularly, you think about how they launched it on stage with Heart of Thorns, and then Path of Fire was just them a video clip.
Spending tens of thousands of dollars on some stage at some convention, and putting some guy up there who really doesn't give a shit about the game or know anything about the game, who's just good at talking to crowds, right? I'm really happy that they're just making a good game, but I don't know, I haven't played it yet. They're making a game, and they're letting that game tell people how good it is all by itself, rather than them going, look how awesome this is, you're fighting a god. Nope, they're just like, here's the game, you tell me if it's good.
Alright, but I want to counter that, and I'll say it was something that was bringing me back to when Heart of Thorns we were being hyped about the elite specs. They would do a reveal every week or so by putting an image on Twitter which would be, for example, the Dragon Hunter with its longbow, and you would find out what new weapon that elite specialization was going to have. With Path of Fire, it's suddenly, right, here you go, here's some elite specs, and we're like, what? We just don't find out that, we're like, oh, Hammer's Engineer's getting a sword, Ellie's getting a sword, Mesmer's getting an axe. It really wasn't built up at all. It was just, for me, it felt a bit flat. Now,
I think it's better.
Well, I do disagree with you. I think that in terms of, you're right maybe about the stage and not hyping it like that, but I do feel having more teasers, a bit of promotional material, and instead of just being thrown in. Now, this is more a Mike O'Brien type promotion type thing, because when he was game director of Guild Wars 1, he would literally release it. There wasn't too much hype about it, there wasn't too much promotion. But you think now with like movies and TV shows, there's promotions, there's trailers. With Path of Fire, there hasn't been too much of that. But you've heard me, you've heard Sean. What about you, Ruwan? What about you? What's your thoughts about the hype for Path of Fire?
I think definitely Heart of Thorns had a lot more hype than Path of Fire, and I think part of me says that could be a little bit because of the leaks that came out, and that's just opening another Pandora box that we could talk about.
Yeah.
The leaks.
But I definitely think that them not doing a...
Oh.
Ruwan?
I think he just ripped. Oh no. There he is.
Yeah, I'm here. I think them not doing the stage is a good idea, but I think that them not doing as much promotion material, like videos on the new Elite specs, or even a trailer, is a really bad idea, because when new expansions come out, people look for trailers. Like, for example, with the first expansion that came out for World of Warcraft, there was a great, clever trailer, cinematic trailer that came out for it. And I thought that was great, and they continued to do that for every single expansion afterwards, and it's kept a lot of hype for every single expansion that came out. And I think Guild Wars 2 could at least do that, and it'll definitely help the hype at least for expansions. But they have to do clever, really good quality cinematics instead of like the one they did for Heart of Thorns. A lot of people definitely liked it, but I didn't really enjoy it that much because it didn't really show anything. It just showed a group of people just fighting it out and not talking about anything that's going on in the story.
Exactly. So yeah, I think we've had some interesting points that we've discussed. It'd be interesting for you guys listening to leave any comments in the section below. Myself, Ruan, and Sean will try and answer some of those. If you do have some interesting questions you want to give to them, by all means. We just usually raid on a particular day each week, and yeah, it's great to hear your thoughts, guys. So thanks for taking part of this, Sean. So thank you to you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to Ruan as well. It's been great hearing your thoughts as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Cool. So thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you on the next video. It's PvP, legendary weapons, how to make gold in Guild Wars 2, and Mikei Talk. Please use these links below to help support my channel, and I'll keep producing content you enjoy.